Welcome to Life Stories, where every story is a journey of love, loss, resilience, and redemption. Today's story takes us deep into the heart of betrayal and the incredible strength it takes to rebuild after everything falls apart. It's a tale of a combat medic whose life was shattered by the people he trusted most and how he turned that pain into purpose. Subscribe to our channel to begin today's story and experience the powerful transformation that proves sometimes the best revenge is building something they can never destroy. Let's begin. If you asked me when I last felt whole, I'd take you back to a dusty field hospital tent in southern Afghanistan. Not to my childhood in Aspen, not to the Carson estate with its marble floors and silent dinners, but to that moment, needle in hand, steady fingers stitching a little girl's arm as her mother looked on with a kind of desperate hope I'd grown used to. That was where I belonged. That was where I met her. Her name was Alyssa Bennett, a war correspondent, sharp-tongued, stubborn, brilliant. She came into my trauma bay one scorched afternoon, shrapnel torn through her right side after she'd shielded a child from an explosion. Blood matted her blonde hair, yet she still managed to smirk when I asked her name. "Usually I'm the one asking the questions," she said through clenched teeth. Even then, something about her gaze held me. Not just the pain, not just the courage, but the clarity. She wanted the real story, the raw truth, not a sanitized version of war for primetime television. I was used to treating soldiers, locals, children, but not people like her. She wasn't running from the violence. She was trying to understand it. We made a deal. I'd give her a local anesthetic if she let me tell her the story of the worst injury I ever treated. She agreed, on the condition I made it good. "My readers expect quality content," she said, laughing mid-cough, and so it began. Over the next week, between surgeries and chaos, I found myself returning to her cot. She'd be typing one-handed on her beat-up laptop, her injured arm propped up on stacked pillows. We talked about everything. About the war, about our childhoods. Mine, trapped in the perfection of a family obsessed with appearances. Hers, on a ranch in Montana, struggling to be heard in a world that didn't care for girls who asked too many questions. "I fight for stories," she told me once. "But it's not just for headlines. I want people to see, not just stats and strategy, but people, what war does to them, what love survives inside it." And I listened. Because in her voice, I heard the same ache that lived in me, that longing to matter, not for praise, not for power, but to make some corner of the world a little less broken. After one particularly long night, we sat outside the medical tent sipping awful instant coffee from cracked mugs, watching tracer fire light up the distant hills. She looked at the flickers and said, "Most folks back home see war through a screen. They don't feel the dust in their lungs or hear the child screaming. But I want to bring them here, not with gore, but with truth." I remember turning to her and saying something I hadn't told anyone. That's why I stayed. Out here, people don't pretend. They either help or they don't. No politics, no masks, just humanity. She reached over and touched my hand, not to comfort me, just to say she understood. By the time we returned stateside, that understanding had become something deeper. We moved to Boulder, Colorado. Not Aspen, where my parents still hosted cocktail parties with politicians and surgeons, but somewhere real. We bought a modest house overlooking the Rockies. She returned to reporting. "I joined Memorial Hospital's trauma team. My parents hated it. You could do so much more," my mother said, nose wrinkled at our outdated kitchen tiles. "There are lovely homes in the country club area." "This is home," I told her. Alyssa didn't need to say anything. She just squeezed my hand under the table, the way she always did when I was trying to hold my ground. We built our life slowly, honestly. Mornings with coffee and shared silence. Evenings filled with stories, hers from the front lines, mine from the ER. We didn't have grandeur, but we had truth. And I believed that was enough. I believed that love, when built on shared scars and real conversations, could weather anything. I couldn't have known then how completely that belief would be shattered. You never quite notice the moment things start to fall apart. It's not like in the movies. No thunderclap, no dramatic music. It's quiet. Subtle, like a thread unraveling from a favorite sweater. You tug at it without thinking, and by the time you realize what you've done, the whole thing is coming undone in your hands. It started with Dr. Ryan Whitaker. He arrived at Memorial Hospital like a gust of cold air through a warm room. Confident, charismatic, Harvard educated, and with just the right amount of rugged charm to make everyone overlook the too perfect smile. My team admired him. My mother adored him. Even Alyssa, she noticed him. At first, I brushed it off. She was a reporter. He was a rising star in trauma surgery. Of course, she'd be curious about his work. But then came the late nights, the guarded phone, the way she'd laugh at his jokes at hospital galas just a bit too long. And I trusted her. I wanted to trust her. After everything we'd been through, I couldn't imagine betrayal. Not from her. I was wrong. I saw them at the charity gala, dancing too close, whispering in a way that excluded the world. And then his hand on her back, lingering familiar. My father stood beside me, holding a glass of whiskey like it was a mirror to our family legacy. "They make a striking couple," he said, not even trying to hide the jab. "Ryan understands the importance of connection. You've always struggled with that." The worst part wasn't the affair. It was the realization that everyone had known. My parents, our friends, even the hospital board. They'd all smiled in my face while ushering Alyssa toward someone more fitting for their world. The night I confronted her, she didn't even deny it. She just looked tired. "I didn't mean for this to happen," she said. "But it did," I replied. "You're not present anymore, Matt. You're physically here, but you're still over there, still in Afghanistan. I needed someone who sees me." I wanted to scream, to throw something, but instead I just stood there. The silence was louder than anything I could have said, and then came the final blow. My parents, Charles and Diane, used an old power of attorney to drain my military savings. Over $400,000. They called it compensation for Alyssa's emotional hardship. That money funded her honeymoon with Ryan, a beach wedding in the Florida Keys. My mother even posted photos online with the caption, "The daughter we always wanted." Something broke inside me, but I didn't fall apart. I planned. I gathered evidence, planted cameras, called in every favor I had left, and I listened, really listened, to the whispers of hospital staff, to the stories people were too afraid to tell. Miguel, a janitor with sharp eyes and a quiet soul, showed me security footage of Ryan pocketing controlled meds. Claire, Ryan's teenage daughter from his first marriage, sent me messages about his manipulation, how he used charm to control, then discard. I wasn't just going to leave. I was going to rebuild. But not with fire and fury, with precision. They had no idea what was coming. They thought I'd vanish after the divorce, that I'd crawl back into the shadows of my past, another broken veteran too haunted to fight back. But the battlefield had taught me something valuable. Silence is not surrender. It's strategy. While Alyssa and Ryan played house in their glossy condo near downtown Denver, I built something real. I started with the people who had stood by me. Miguel left his janitorial job to become head of operations. Claire, brilliant, wounded, driven, joined our medical internship program. Kayla Monroe, once Alyssa's college roommate, now a respected TV producer, used her platform to spotlight real stories of trauma and recovery. And Hannah Blake, Ryan's ex-wife and a pharmaceutical researcher, became my partner, in purpose and later in love. Together, we founded the Rocky Ridge Medical Institute, a trauma and recovery center tucked in the Colorado Rockies. Our mission was simple: to offer combat medics, veterans, and trauma survivors a space to heal, not just physically, but deeply honestly. There were no marble lobbies, no golf club fundraisers, just clean halls, open skies, and people who truly understood pain. While our work flourished, the cracks in my enemy's perfect facades deepened. Ryan's tremors worsened. His unauthorized medication trials, hidden behind the walls of a private clinic, were exposed thanks to insider footage from Diego, Miguel's brother-in-law, who worked security there. Patients came forward, lawsuits followed. His medical license was suspended, then revoked. His name, once whispered with admiration in hospital corridors, became a cautionary tale. Alyssa's world collapsed more quietly. One of her sources recanted, triggering an internal review. Another scandal broke, then another. Kayla ensured the right people noticed. Her credibility crumbled. She lost her job, her network, her audience. My parents? Their social empire fell like dominoes. Charles's firm was investigated for financial misconduct. Diane's gallery was hit with a fraud probe over fake art sales. They lost everything. The last letter they sent begged for understanding. I never opened it. Meanwhile, our institute thrived. Veterans trained in wilderness medicine under my mentorship. Hannah's research into PTSD and neurochemical healing changed how trauma treatment was approached nationwide. Claire became a rising star in emergency care, determined to do better than the legacy her father left behind. People began to notice not just what we built, but how we built it, with truth, with empathy, with the kind of loyalty that's earned, not inherited. Years later, Alyssa reached out again, an email full of apologies and regret. I didn't respond. What was there to say? Some wounds never fully heal, but they can be repurposed into strength, into service, into something far greater than vengeance. Because real justice isn't watching someone fall. It's building something they can never touch. That's what we did at Rocky Ridge. Every patient who walked through our doors, every broken soul who left stronger than they came, that was the real victory. I didn't destroy them. I outgrew them. And I built a legacy they'll spend the rest of their lives pretending not to envy. Looking back now, it's strange how betrayal shaped the best parts of my life. At the time, it felt like the end, like everything I'd built was crashing down. But in reality, it was just the beginning. I didn't set out to become a leader or build an institute. I just wanted peace. I wanted to turn pain into something that could help others. And somewhere along the way, I found purpose, found love again, and surrounded myself with people who chose loyalty, not convenience. People who knew that healing isn't found in headlines or social status, but in long, quiet work that matters. Alyssa, Ryan, my parents, they all made their choices. They chased appearances and connections. I chased truth, and in the end, that made all the difference. Now, every time I walk the halls of Rocky Ridge and see someone smile after months of silence, or hear a veteran laugh again for the first time in years, I know it was all worth it. The betrayal, the loss, the long road back, it led here, to something real, to something that will outlive me. Because the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's building something so honest, so lasting, that those who tried to destroy you can't even comprehend what they lost. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you of your own strength, I invite you to stay connected. Please subscribe to the Life Stories channel to follow more powerful, sweet, emotional journeys just like this one. There are more stories to tell, more hearts to heal, and more lessons to learn. Until next time, take care of yourself, and never forget, the best endings are the ones you build yourself.